Okay, we're now live on all platforms.
Great, thanks. Well, hi everyone. Thanks for joining. We've got around 20 or so people with us on the Zoom call now, so we'll just wait a few minutes for more people to join. We are streaming on YouTube as well, so if you do lose the connection here, then please do join on YouTube. I don't know if someone could post the link in the chat box, that would be great. I don't have it, but I think you probably find it if you go to the Little Book of Green Nudges YouTube channel. If you do have questions for speakers, once we get going with the presentations, please do put those in the Q&A box rather than the chat. Feel free to drop your name, where you're from, in the chat box for some more informal discussion, but we'll be keeping an eye on the Q&A box for speakers' presentation. In the chat box, we now have the link to the YouTube live stream. Thanks for that. So again, we'll just wait for a few more minutes in case anyone else is going to join, and then we will jump into this webinar on energy and water. Okay, I'm not seeing many more people joining now, so I think good time to get started. So welcome everyone, thanks for joining. This is, I think, the fourth webinar in the Little Book of Green Nudges webinar series. I'm Jessie Barker. I was one of the co-authors of the Little Book of Green Nudges. I was working at the Behavioral Insights team at the time, also known as the Nudge Unit back in the UK. I'm now working in state government in the US, in Alaska, applying behavioral science to COVID response. So again, yep, thanks for joining us. A couple of things for housekeeping. Please do keep yourself on mute. Please raise your hand, or as I mentioned, drop a question in the Q&A box if you'd like to ask something of one of our four speakers. And otherwise, I'm really excited to hear people's presentations. So just as a few words of intro, just to kind of set the stage here. So we're talking about energy consumption and water consumption today. And just a few things to kind of bear in mind what as kind of motivation for the nudges you'll be hearing about today. So all forms of energy energy consumption have some kind of impact on the environment, and we can really think about it in two ways. One is just the overall amount of energy you're consuming, and secondly, what type of energy you're consuming, and that will have a big be a big determinant of how much impact you have. So not just using less energy, but also switching the source of your energy to something that is more renewable. So for example, if we all switch to a renewable source of energy, we could reduce carbon emissions by up to 70% in the next 30 years. And so when you're thinking about nudges to change energy consumption, do think about both those things, reducing the overall amount of consumption, as well as potential switches to different sources of energy, and what might be easier as a nudge in one place may not be as easy in another place. So as we emphasized in the book, really do think about what might be better for your context. A big motivating factor might not just be environment, but it's also spending less money. So using something like LED light bulbs instead of regular light bulbs, you use 85% less energy, but they also last 20 times longer than incandescent bulbs. And so that can be a huge energy saver for campuses, as well as having positive environmental impact, as well as measures to kind of make small changes to buildings to conserve energy. So in that case, it's not just kind of individual actions like switching a light off when you leave a room, but also kind of nudging to make changes to infrastructure like insulation, better insulation to keep in that energy. And I'd really kind of urge people to think broadly about what barriers there might be to behavior change in these cases. So for sometimes it might be money. Often energy saving requires a big upfront cost, but often it's just something a bit more maybe counterintuitive. Like the behavioral insights team did a study looking at what barriers there might be to people better insulating their lofts, and they found that people were actually willing to pay more to have somebody come and clean out their attic, all their old things that they stored in the attic and they didn't want to deal with. So there really wasn't a money barrier. It was a kind of hassle and routine barrier. So that's a little bit about energy. And a lot of the same principles apply to water. Obviously, we can't switch to kind of more renewable water sources like energy, but we can think about reducing the amount we do consume. And even though it seems like in many areas water is plentiful, certainly where I am, you can see from my backdrop, I live in a place where water is very plentiful. I used to live in Arizona where it was not so, but only less than 1% of water in the planet is available for human use. And yes, water does continuously return to us in the water cycle. It's not always returning in the same place, and just the kind of treatment of water to make it suitable for human consumption is resource intensive as well. Over 1 billion people worldwide lack access to clean water, and over 2.5 billion find water scarce for at least 1 month of the year. Our water consumption has impacts on hygiene, with obvious implications for disease worldwide. And so there are small actions we can take day to day to reduce our water consumption. For example, putting appliances in eco mode, like dishwashers, laundry machines, monitoring water use when you're taking a shower, installing a smart meter to help you do that, and so on. So I hope that's kind of set the stage for you a little bit, why we're interested in energy and water. And I'm really, really excited to hear about some of the nudges, some of the measures that have been taken by 4 universities on these fronts. I think we wrote the Little Book of Green Nudges as a tool that could be used for action, not just something that people can sit back and read. So it's really exciting to hear that it is actually being taken up and across the world, and many different contexts, people are actually putting these nudges into practice. So with that, I'd like to hand the floor to Mike Diamond from the University of Bournemouth. Let's see, Mike is the energy officer at Bournemouth University and sits in the sustainability team. And he ensures smooth and efficient building operation through management of their building management system and identifying energy saving project opportunities. So thank you, Mike.
Oh, Jessie, thank you for that introduction. Yeah, as was said, I am Mike and I'm the Energy Officer for Bournemouth University. I'm just going to try and pull up my presentation. Hang on a second. Just if it will actually work. Okay, can someone just confirm that that's actually displaying?
That's great, Mike, thank you.
Brilliant, thank you. Okay, so as Jessie said, I'm the Energy Officer for Bournemouth University. I work as part of the sustainability team and I'm responsible for basically energy management across the estate and identifying and implementing projects and behavioural changes across our estate in order to maximise our energy efficiency and also our energy generation. So a little bit of a history about our energy usage as an organisation over the last decade or so. So generally we're seeing a downward trend in our energy consumption. This these graphs are just showing grid consumption, and that's our total grid consumption and our grid consumption essentially per staff member and student or student. As you can see, there's a pretty good downward trend over the years, and this is despite a massively changing estate and a growing university. We've grown considerably in terms of our estate and our population over the last 10 years or so. And the same can be kind of seen with gas, not quite as clear cut in terms of the import, but certainly in terms of the per staff member or student, again, you can see that quite good reduction over the years. Again, this is quite heavily impacted by changes to the estate and where we've taken on additional buildings, especially where we've taken on older buildings. It's caused some issues. But as I said, is that generally downward trend. So the main causes of our downward trend in energy usage is, in terms of electricity, it's on-site, big ones on-site generation. We're producing about 300,000 kilowatt hours of green energy from PV per year at this point, and that's from approximately 250 kilowatt peak of solar panels, and that's increasing constantly. We've got another 60 going on in the next couple of weeks, and that's also not including a couple of our new builds. We've also installed a large biomass boiler. Now that's not 100% green, necessarily a good option, but it's all locally sourced renewable wood, and then the ash is returned back to the plantation and is used to help fertilize the soil to grow more trees, and that's from about 8 miles away from the university. A big one that we've been jumping into heavily is heat pump technology, where that shifted some of the energy usage from gas over to electricity, but is a lot more efficient, where you can have over 100% efficiency from it. And then we've also done other things like insulation, LED bulbs, and going along that route in terms of our energy reduction. But one of the biggest impacts we've had is a combination of controls and behavioral change, which is why the bullet points are so close together for those two, because they are very, very closely linked. And that's where nudging comes in. So when it comes to controls and behavior, with HVAC, or heating, ventilation, and air conditioning, we have taken a multi-step approach. So the first step, probably quite obviously, was to improve the controls and the management in our buildings. We've done this through essentially making them heading towards smart building level, but not quite getting there yet. And this has been done through the installation of a statewide building management system. And we can tunnel down into, well, certainly in some buildings, room level control. And through that, it moves on to the next point, which is setting the buildings to run as comfortably and efficiently as possible. We essentially want to have everyone be comfortable in the buildings. Kind of impossible, because everyone's got different levels of comfort in terms of air quality and thermal comfort, but try and get a really good baseline comfort level. But the third step, which is with the nudging side, is to provide staff and students with control to achieve their comfort levels. So we don't want to take the control away from the users. That's not gonna, that doesn't work, doesn't help with morale or well-being. People want to have control over what they're doing, but what we want is them to control things in such a way as to be as efficient and as green as possible. And by doing that, we go to the nudging of the defaults, which is back to that step 2, setting the buildings to be as comfortable as possible from a default perspective, which almost discourages people from going and changing settings, because while they can, there's not necessarily a need to do that, but you do have that knowledge, the users do have that knowledge that if they're a little bit cold, they can make it warmer. If they're a little bit hot, they can make it cooler, which works quite nicely. And again, doesn't take that control away from the users. But moving beyond just setting it to defaults, there's the visual reminders, which I think everyone's quite familiar with, that go up on the walls around various offices and various rooms, with turn the lights off when you leave, turn the computers off when you leave, if you turn the air conditioning on, turn that off when you leave. Unfortunately, a lot of the time it doesn't make a lot of difference, and a lot of people do ignore those signs, especially when they've become so used to seeing those signs everywhere, they just become part of the background. So it doesn't necessarily help so much. They're good to have, and you might get that small percentage of users who actually view them and do make changes according to that signage, but on their own they don't really do much. They help a little bit, but again don't really do much. So whilst we do have signage around the estate, we've implemented a gamification system. So again, this is to gamify sustainability, and this isn't just used for energy management. We use green rewards as a way to gamify health and well-being, as well as just energy reduction. It incorporates locally sourced food, exercise, all sorts of other things. But from my perspective, my main focus is on the energy side, where essentially the users of the green reward system log in and they can log their actions that they've done, and they can choose what actions they want to participate in. That could be turning the lights off, turning the computers off, not using the space heater, or there's all sorts of actions that they can take part in. And we've seen a real difference from people actually getting involved and getting motivated because of the gamification. Unfortunately, at the moment, it's only open to staff members in Bournemouth University, but we're hoping to change that or introduce a similar type of system for the student body. And from my perspective, as far as that screenshot goes, a little bit disappointing that estates and procurement is down at 5th place, but it has certainly had a very positive feedback, and over 50% of our staff are currently signed up to the platform. And that platform has then led to various offices and groups of staff starting their own initiatives in order to reduce our organisational footprint further. So from there, the staff and the various members of staff have formed groups. They've then made initiatives based on what the Green Rewards has kind of triggered, and started office switch offs and things like that, which has again made a big difference. So the next step from that gamification side, from the Green Rewards level, is the real-time building / area level monitoring with increase and decreases from a set baseline versus other buildings. Essentially, this is just taking all of our buildings across the estate and putting them in a competition with each other. So where we've got different levels of efficiencies across buildings, it's got to be based on a baseline for each building, but having that visual display showing what your building or your office is doing in comparison to another office, and with tips on what users can do in order to increase their efficiency and beat the other teams or beat the other offices. Again, it's always turning efficiency into a game, and it has had good feedback and good response. It does provide that motivation. It's engaging, and it's not like we're forcing people to do anything. It's people can do whatever they want. There's no pressure from management or the organization as a whole. It's just a way to make people feel more engaged. It's both in terms of the default settings that we've gone down, and gamification. We've started with top-down approach, and to a large extent defaults are still governed by university policy. That is heavily influenced by the sustainability team and sustainability as a whole, in that we help to define that policy in terms of what buildings are set to. The gamification side has been steadily evolving, and what started off as this was implemented as an organizational level and a top-down approach has now become more of a bottom-up approach, where it's any changes to the Green Reward system are based on feedback from the user groups, and there are, I believe, monthly meetings which are open session to all users that can then influence and impact on what the users want to see from the system. And again, we've had really good feedback from that. They're just a couple of the approaches that we've taken across Bournemouth University to try and improve our energy efficiency, and where we're trying to aim for in the future. Okay. Thank you very much. And let's just try and stop sharing.
Thank you, Mike. That was really great to hear. It's exciting to see some of that being implemented. So let's move on to our next presentation. Hopefully we'll have some time at the end for questions. So our next speaker is going to be Eleni Contou. So she has recently graduated from the Law School of National and Kapodistrian University of Athens. She's been an active member of the Sustainable Development Solutions Network Youth since 2016, when it first began in Greece. Is really excited to be involved in these many sustainability efforts with a common cause for a sustainable world. So Eleni, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon from wherever you are. Let me share my screen, just a minute. Okay, you see if it's okay?
Yep, that's great, thank you.
Okay. It was a very interesting presentation, the previous one. Mine, it will focus mostly on a legislative level, more theoretical, let's say, but it's the basis to move to the implementation of more tangible solutions. So this is a brief revision of what is happening in Greece. We have ratified the EU directives about water management since 2007. There are several laws and administrative acts that try to synchronize the local governments with the central government as far as water management is concerned. However, we see that the law might not be fragmented in our country, but there are not focused and organized solutions for the long run in order to produce sustainable solutions. We have more laws and legislative acts from 2018 and after. And however, the initiatives that are being taken are not coming directly from the campuses, but from private corporations and people individually. As far as energy is concerned, we have the long-term strategy for 2050. We focus on the climate change and in the efforts that are being made in order to avoid the increase of temperature. There have been made efforts in order to make our cities more resilient and the future cities. Some paradigms are Astypalea Island and Tripoli City that have been characterized as the cities of the future as far as reusable and renewable energies are concerned. So we all advocate that energy and water are public goods and they have to be provided by the state to the people equally, analogically, with quality and quantity. However, some people might be excluded because of the cost. It's a minority, but we should take them into account, of course. There have been made researches from centers like the iCreate Institute of Environmental and Economic Research, in which the SDSN Youth in Greece is incorporated. This is because our universities are public, so we need some funding and extra support from research centers. The campus coordinators are making a very good job and they put all of their efforts in order to motivate the students. and be in close contact with the national board of SDSN in our country. However, there are some gaps in the connection between the national board and the international board of SDSN. However, we are trying to bridge those gaps. That's why I'm in this organization as a mentor, in order to try to help the students in the hubs to have some communication. However, we should mention that the students who lead this initiative in their campuses try to organize and recruit more and more students. This year, we had the pandemic. However, we do not stop in trying to incorporate all of our efforts in this goal. More sustainable consumption and management of energy and water, meaning. Let's see some examples of our universities. We have Harokopia University Hub. During the pandemic period, they make several conferences. One of them was the 3-day Sustainability Path Conference. The panelists came from both the students and the professor community, and that was a very nice kick as far as raising awareness is concerned. Also, the University of Peloponnese in the Department of Economics has made efforts in raising the awareness among students. They have installed recycle bins. They have recycling clubs and startup hub. This is a goal that is going to be developed mostly in the this semester. In the Democritus University of Prague, we also have a nice cooperation with the newly come members in the campuses, in the hubs. They are trying to make the professors more motivated because we came to the realization that the academic world was not aware that they had to make more steps in order to contribute to sustainable development and sustainable management of water and energy. We mean that most researches are being made in an individual level, as I mentioned before, and not in a more team effort level, in order to incorporate professors and researchers and students in this and make a more large stand in our society. So the professors of Democritus University of Prague tried to establish a conference, a roundtable conference this year, which had to do with those goals. However, we hope for more cooperation between these parts of the academic community. However, we should also have to refer to the National Kapodistrian University of Athens, because this is a paradigm of how the academic world can cooperate with private companies and individuals outside the academic world. This is a paradigm that refers to the testings that have been made from the departments of National Kapodistrian University of Athens, as far as filters that are released in the market are concerned. They are filters that are trying to make the quality of the water better for all people in an affordable level. And they have been awarded. And this is thanks to the cooperation that was made between the community and the students. There are several steps that we have to take in Greece in order to increase our impact in sustainable development. We should bridge the cooperation between the campuses among Greece. It's already very strong, but we can make a lot more out of that. We would like also to open up to the international community and invite the rest of the campuses to cooperate with us in a cross-country level. in reports, researches, and of course, we also refer to the SDSN Global Board that we can work upon a closer cooperation, more organized, because we are based as an SDSN network in campuses across the world. And yeah, we hope for the best. And there's a lot of positive steps that have been made during this journey. Pandemic has motivated a lot of students to search their social media and come to us to find us and learn more about sustainability. But because SDSN network is not merely about the academic world, we will try from the next year to approach more startups, companies, to connect with the society outside the campuses and approach the government in order to set the basis for the legislature to make more tangible laws and administrative acts. Because without research and without themes, you cannot move to this further. To conclude, I would like to mention that there is a very serious gap, that this is not only about the Greek government in Greece, it is in most countries, that sometimes the central governments do not take into account the local governments, the local people. They have to ask them to inform them about the steps that are going to be made as far as renewable resources of energy are concerned, because sometimes people see it as a threat for the environment. And this is true because if it's not organized and not on a level of research organized, then it might pose a further threat to the environment for the sake of new resources. And of course, they have to explain them that we can focus and base on new forms of energy and to make advantage from our water resources that are not managed and not organized, meaning that we do not know, due to our geographical characteristics of our country, from where they come from, what is the situation there of pollution, who is making advantage of them, and if they are being exploited by the local people there. So the government should focus on informing people how to make a sustainable use of water and energy, and also that there are many economic benefits for the long run, because Greece, for example, is based on lignite resources, which are not environmentally friendly, but it is very difficult to transmit the whole economy and make it more sustainable without taking into account the job positions that are going to be lost. We should inform people that they can evolve and find jobs in another area, but we also have to help them to learn how to adjust in the new sustainable world that we want to present. That's all for me. It was more academic and theoretical, but I hope I have transmit you a picture of my country in this level. Thank you very much for today.
Great, thanks so much, Eleni. Thank you for your observations. That was really insightful. So let's have our next speaker, who's going to be Elizabeta Tartavia, who is from the University of Padua. She is an officer in the Public Engagement Office, Communication and Marketing in the sector of sustainability and inclusion. So over to you, Elizabeta.
So hello, good morning, everyone, and thanks for this opportunity to share our work with you all. I also bring you the greetings from our Vice Rector, who is couldn't be here. I just share my presentation. Right. Okay. Okay. So I will deal with a very brief description of sustainability at the university, then the Green Energies projects, and then I will deal with a little bit of more projects about energy. So the University of Padua has always been very committed to the promotion of universal values such as human rights, equality, and environment. And in 2018, all these ideas, they have been transformed into the project called the Sustainable Uni Padua. So at a political level, this is managed by the Vice Rector for Sustainability, and it's organized and managed by the office called the Public Engagement, where I work, which works as a connection through the different structures of the university and its stakeholders. So mainly students, teachers, university staff, but also citizens and local institutions. In 2018, we decided to write the Sustainability Commitment Charter as a guide for all the further actions and measures to be implemented. And in there are 7 action lines. So resources, environment and energy, mobility and transports, wellness, inclusion, equal opportunities, and education. So everything is written in there. And on the following year, the university published its first sustainability report, which is a work which has been remade on the later year, 2020, and then we're gonna working on it in the next months. So the first nudge, actually, I will describe, deals with water and the decision to eliminate plastic in the distribution of drinks. So in the year 12-19, a group of students of community psychology, they presented a project where they investigated the reasons why students preferred to buy water in plastic bottles. And the answer to this survey is that the student community felt that tap water and water from dispensers was not at all safe. So the project we implemented is called Plastic Free Uni PD, and it had 3 steps. So at first, 50 microfiltered water dispensers were placed in university seats. Then 18,000 water bottles were distributed to freshers as a third step. Plastic bottles, glasses, and spoons for hot beverage were eliminated in all vending machines. The procedure for awarding the contract of water bottles was very strict on environment criteria. And the university made many laboratory investigations to check all the samples received by various companies. So in the end, this had a very important impact because we spared 1,850,000 plastic objects, which means a reduction of 400,000 kilos of CO2. Then I will deal with some more energy projects implemented in the university buildings. So the first project is about print management, and it has 2 issues: the digitalization of administrative processes and the substitution of printers. So the context for this project is the observation that administrative documents used to be printed in several times because they had to be revised and signed by many different people. So each one could, well, propose some modifications. Therefore, the same document had to be reprinted. Moreover, there was a problem of storage of big amount of paper. So in the year 2018, the university started a process of digitalization, not yet totally completed due to legal matters. And administrative staff had to change completely their way of working, the way in which they used to deal with documents, to have them signed, because they had to learn how to use a new digital system to upload and download documents. So 200 tons of paper are spared every year, and this means a diminution of 25 tons of CO2. The second part of the project is about printers. So from having a printer in every office, people found themselves having just 1 printer per floor. So administrative staff had to really think over to what they were about to print and if they really need it in the end. In those machines, you can choose in advance if you want to use white or recycled paper, and this led to spare 15 tons of paper per year and to a diminution of 18 tons of CO2. So the importance given to paper is also mirrored in the attention given to the type of paper used in printed materials of the communication office. So the paper which is used, which is FSC certified, can be produced with waste of food production, such as corn, coffee, kiwi, with algae, or with no cellulose. So we had therefore many reductions as outcomes of this project. So paper, staff travels, storage space. Moreover, it is now much easier to work from home for university staff, and students are no longer obliged to come to Padua only for documents and signatures as it used to be before. So another project is about green energy. So in order to lower the impact of the university, the governance decided in 2019 to buy only green energy. Therefore, people who manage energy for the 160 university buildings had to find a way to buy only that energy. And this is something very important for the environment, because being a part in the financing of green energy means to contribute to the promotion of change in the market of energy, which is one of the sectors more responsible for general pollution. Therefore, advertising the use of green energy among all the university community can also influence more people to buy green energy in their houses, because if you know what the university is making, then you can decide that this is a good option also in your private life, basically. As a result, we had a reduction of 55% of energy consumption, and the emissions for energetic consumption have been reduced of 68%. Another project is a project about circular economy in the field of furniture and computer. So the general aim is, of course, the aim of circular economy is to avoid the waste of energy to produce new things and the disposal of old things, reusing stuff which still can work. So very recently, it was created a system to inventory all the unused goods in all the university buildings. And therefore, before buying new stuff, people in charge have to check if something is available somewhere else in the central building of the university, and also in all the rest of the several buildings spread all around the city of Padua. So the outcome of this project is the creation of more than 200 new offices through the use of only recovered materials. Nothing was bought, and the impact was zero, of course. And the aim of the project was also to underline the importance of circular economy to the eyes of university staff. Because again, if you show that you're doing something in the work, then you can decide that this is a good option also for you. So in 2020, as you know, COVID-19 made it difficult to work and study for people who did not have enough technological equipment in their homes. So in order to promote a more sustainable economy and help the university community to study and work, the governance decided to promote the possibility to buy refurbished computers at discount prices. So 7,500 notebooks were reserved to freshers, and the 70,000 notebooks to other students and staff who were in need. Then I will describe the activity of a very important student group, which is called Sustainability, which is very active in our university, and we often collaborate with them for different things. So they decided to create this group in the year 2019 to contribute and advertise the transition to more sustainable habits. They organize seminars and workshops involving professors from the university in different subjects. In 2020, they decided to better organize all the thoughts emerged in the seminars into an online guide about sustainable behaviors. And this is addressed to students giving advice in several aspects of life, especially for those who are living alone for the first time as university students. And the guide contains information about food, cooking and storage, sustainable mobility in the city of Padua, organization and manage of waste in a student's house, and many more topics. So with the occasion of the participation of the university to the event called something similar to I Light Up Less, translated from the Italian, they created a series of videos to share some tips on the university social media. So this event is a national event organized every year by a radio to raise awareness on saving energy throughout the turning off of lights in all the major buildings every year all around Italy, in all the major cities, but also in very small villages. So those are just some examples of a more extensive project on energetic requalification of buildings, which is something actually ongoing. So basically, the old buildings are renovated and upgraded in several aspects connected to energetic requalification, and you can have some examples in this slide. And the new acquired buildings, which are in most of the cases historical sites located in the city center, are transformed into buildings which have extremely high environmental performances. So for example, the new Beato Pellegrino Humanistic Campus is the first gas-free of the university. So there's a lot more to come in the field of energy in the next years. So thank you very much for your attention. Here are our contacts in case you have further inquiries. I was very happy of being part of this very stimulating project, and thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Elizabeta. That was great to hear about some of the nudges that you've been doing. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce our final speaker, Dr. Primrose Nakazibwe from JJ University in Uganda, currently a Director of Research and Innovations and holder of a PhD from Tilburg University in the Netherlands, a Master's and Bachelor's in Development Studies from Berara University of Science and Technology. So Primrose, excited to hear about your contributions. Over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I bring you greetings from Kampala, Uganda, and precisely in JJ University. I'm very excited to be here because listening to previous speakers put us in the context that actually we are moving in the right direction with a lot to learn from other colleagues. So I want to thank the previous speakers from all the insights that you have provided. They enrich our activities in our specific universities. Our presentation has a different perspective. Necessarily that we are doing anything different, but it's because we are working within the context that is quite different. We are coming in from the background of a developing country with the specific challenges that are unique to our environments. We are also an urban rural university, which gives us an opportunity to interact with the community and the real needs of the society. We have a Kampala, a town-based campus, and then we have a rural-based campus, which is the main campus of Ndejje University. And we are Christian-based university, which gives us an opportunity to speak to people spiritually, physically, and also if we are to enable the communities respond to some of the contemporary development challenges, such as environmental change and climate change, then we are very proud as Ndejje University that we are making these small steps towards the realization of a holistic social transformation, not only for our societies, but also to the global society. So my presentation, or our presentation, is based on the model of stakeholder engagement in sustainable consumption and recycling of renewable energy sources. Here we are looking at how do we make the university a center of learning, but a center that extends the learning environment beyond the university walls. So we work within the boundaries of the university. We have initiatives that benefit us as members of the community of the university, but we are also working in the direction of ensuring that the communities, more especially those that are us, get a feel or get to be impacted with the activities, innovations that are happening within the university. But then we also target our students for sustainability, because we know the knowledge that is generated within the university, if we don't lay a framework that will benefit the students to be able to replicate the same projects within the community, then the notion of sustainability becomes very challenged. So within the university, we are looking at the sustainable consumption practices of energy. We are looking at recycling practices. We are looking at recycling bio-waste into fuel briquettes. We are looking at skilling of rural farmers to recycle agricultural waste. And then we will look at the context in which we work, the partners with whom we work with, our approach with these partners, the incentives for the urban authorities as one of our outreach approaches. Then we have what we have been able to get out of these projects and our future plans. So our context of energy preservation mainly carried out within the context of projects operated by students. We have the Technology Without Borders, the Rotaract clubs, these are all clubs for the students, which are patronized by the faculty headships, the deans, and the lecturers who are in charge of, with interest, some interest with the students within these areas. And we have been organized the students through these different groups to form the diverse, multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary teams that work together to address the challenge at hand. For instance, when you look at, for instance, the Rotaract Club, it brings together students and from different faculties, which means that students support each other in terms of knowledge base. For instance, the scientists look at the scientific innovations, but then the non-scientists, who are the humanities, come in with the humanistic approaches to, for instance, community engagement, which help us to implement these projects more easily. So within the university structure, much of these projects are organized within the 5 research development centers that we have, one being the based on energy, the other one based on water. We have the Agricultural, Forestry and Environment Center. Then we have the Technology Incubation Center. We have the Business Incubation Center. This is how the interdisciplinary element comes out within our research and innovation. So for the 6 past years, we've worked with the communities along with our students to provide this much needed social transformation as far as energy consumption is concerned within the university, but also within the communities that surround us. And much of the support comes from the university, but also from our partners. The simple sustainable
Sorry, if I
consumption
could just sorry, Primrose, I apologize for interrupting. I just wanted to note that we are coming up on 1 hour. We've got about 4 minutes left. So I'd just like to maybe pause here for a second and just see if anybody has any questions. I know some people probably have to jump off at an hour, and if there are no questions, then we'd love to hear more. I think, and I just note now also that we do have, I think, 3 more webinars coming up, one in August, September and October. So please do let us know if you're interested in participating in those. So I think we will try to keep it within 1 hour if possible, Primrose, but we would love to hear a few more slides if you'd like to go ahead with that. Could you also put in your presentation in full screen? Would that be possible? For the remaining time. Oh,
yeah,
we've
I'll
got,
quickly run through
I'm sorry,
within
we've
the
got
next 2-3
one
minutes.
question in the chat box. I'm sorry. I would like to know how much you spent for implementations in your universities. Maybe Primrose, would you like to start with that?
I beg your pardon?
How much you spent on implementing the nudges at your university?
I think it's quite a difficult question to answer so fast, but we, for instance, have partners working on different aspects who sponsor our projects, and depending on the activities that we are doing, it is very difficult to give the figures now. But we have been able, for instance, to install energy saving stoves for the nearby schools, and also introducing the use of briquettes, which is another alternative source of energy that is made from the waste that is produced within the university. And then we have also been able to transfer the same knowledge to the communities. And I think the impact within the short time that we can share with you is that we used to have a lot of bush burning, which destroyed a lot of environment, because farmers and communities didn't know how they can turn, for instance, the waste that is generated from farm clearing into something that can be useful for the community, for the households. So we have had an opportunity also to introduce commodification of elements of waste that is, for instance, we have a lot of pills that have been generated from so many homes because we eat a lot of fresh organic foods, and we have been able to convert that into usable energy through the making of briquettes by communities, but that is also what we are using as a university. So it's a sizable budget, because the installation of these cooking stoves and the machinery that prepares these briquettes cost a lot of money. And if you look at some of the stoves, the examples from the screen, these stoves require a lot of cement, concrete, stones, and space. But then the testimonies, if we ever get a second chance to present here, there are very interesting testimonies coming from the support staff within these schools with this kind of transformation. And there has been a lot of saving in terms of budget for the schools and the communities on energy consumption. But then also—
Sorry, if I could just jump in for a second. Just in the interest of time for the other presenters, if you would like to answer that question in the chat box, we'd be happy to hear your responses, and we can share that with the group afterwards. And Primrose, please do go ahead and finish your presentation. We're happy to go a few minutes over time. So sorry to interrupt you there. Please do go ahead. I think you're on mute there, Primrose.
So we have had a very interesting also projects that are happening within the urban establishments in terms of how to deal with the waste that have been generated within the trading centers and urban centers. And as I was saying, that these projects have been have helped the the communities to commodify or to transform what was once waste into a source of livelihood, more especially for women, which is an opportunity for us to impact more especially the disadvantaged, the communities, more especially the women and other vulnerable populations such as the orphaned children in communities, children from vulnerable homes finding source of income and survival through collecting waste and selling it for those who want to recycle it. So
I'm sorry, could I just jump in for a second? One of the attendees has asked, would you be able to switch to full screen? Just there's a slide icon at the bottom. If you, I'm sorry, on the bottom right of your very bottom, where you can zoom in and out. Let's see, just go to the red bar along the bottom of your screen, just to the right of where it says comments at the bottom. And if that's not possible, you see where it says 52% at the bottom of your screen, and then just to the left of that, a little, at the very bottom. Let's see.
So,
If it's too much of a problem, please do continue.
So I was trying to summarize to fit within the 2-3 minutes that I had, and I was saying that we have been able to reach out to the urban centers to be able to support the energy, more especially environmental management in terms of waste collections and turning the waste into something that can be used for the benefit of the entire community. So we have used this stakeholder approach that brings many actors into the play of energy consumption, recycling, and then also alternative sourcing. So we are working with a number of stakeholders, including the traders who are now the people who sell, for instance, the products that we create within the university, the briquettes. We are working with the municipalities who provide us with the waste, but also in return, we also provide these alternatives energy to the members of the municipality. We are working with the civil society agencies, mostly in sensitization of communities. We are working with the farmers within the neighborhoods of the university, but we are expanding beyond our own district or locality to have a greater impact. We've had a very good impact with the schools that surround us. We've trained the students on how to, for instance, manage garbage within the university, the sorting process, so that they are able to find which garbage can be recycled, which garbage can be used by other actors, for instance, the farmers, in terms of generation of fertilizers. The schools are generating these fertilizers and giving them back to community through what we call corporate social responsibility. We are working with the waste companies, and some of these waste companies that we are working with are companies that our own students have started upon graduation, because we've made these projects also income generating projects for the students, who more especially the disadvantaged students. And we are working with the line ministries of water and energy, as well as the policy implementing institution, or which is the National Environmental Management Institution, abbreviated as NEMA. So our context is basically inbuilt school and business initiatives. We are attracting business models in waste recycling. We are using user-friendly techno models of waste recycling, and we are touring successful recycling projects enable our students and communities to learn from these processes. So that is the linkage between the universities, high schools, communities, and other actors who are on board. Then maybe in terms of what are our outputs so far, we are able to produce 2 tons of fuel briquettes every day for preparation of meals within the university, but then our established factory is able now to sell to the communities. We have also sustainably organized the 3 community groups that are making briquettes within the neighborhoods to be able to reach out to the demand which we cannot satisfy as the university. But then also these communities are organizing biochar and selling it to these bigger companies within the country that are also producing briquettes at a larger scale. That is also what we call our empowerment program for the communities, for those who cannot be able to involve themselves within production of the briquettes for cooking. They are able to organize or look for and source resources that are required for the production of biochar. And like I said, we have one private waste company which is adding value to what is produced by these small groups of people. So we also have 2 social enterprises operated by alumni of JJ University. One is Summit Green Company, and the other one is called Weye. These are available on the internet for those who want to read these stories. We have a digital platform that has been created to share knowledge and also ensure that we get sustainable initiatives. And high school students in several schools have been sensitized to practice sustainable consumption and recycling of garbage to ensure that the impact is far wider for homes of all the students in the schools that we are working with. And our future plans are to bring on board more partners, and that is the whole reason why we are here, to produce multimedia ICA programs and materials focusing on sustainable consumption and recycling. We are also developing tools and curriculum materials, which we are sharing with the communities. These are translated within the local languages, into local languages that other local community members can use, read, and understand. We are also setting up more models and framework for the demonstration units within the university, and we look forward to boost knowledge and information through more platforms to facilitate evidence policy on recycling that is impacting the policy environment within our nation, and also enhance intersector linkages and joint ventures on recycling. I want to appreciate you for the time given to me, despite the challenges of the time that was left behind for me. Thank you very much. For God and my country.
Thank you so much, Primrose. Apologies to rush you at the end, but glad we had time to hear about some of your exciting initiatives at JJ University. Thank you so much. So thanks everyone for joining us today. We'll be sending out a summary of this session. As I said at the beginning, it will be available, well, it is already available on YouTube, the channel Little Book of Green Nudges. We have 3 more webinars coming up, so do get in touch if you would like to participate in those. And thanks again for joining.